So, as the Gulf War rages into its seventh day, where the US and Israel finally attacked Iran for alleged nuclear weapons development and its ballistic missile programs, the US has now set itself into a trap that future generations of the United States might end up regretting. So today in this video, I'm going to be discussing about what I feel would be the long-term implications of this war, because now the conflict has escalated to a level where it is insanely difficult to get out without having political backlash at home, and it is too difficult to stay in combat for long because otherwise you would face extreme losses. So why did the US actually attack Iran? Now, on paper, in person, the US administration has claimed that this was done due to the fact that Iran was developing a nuclear weapons program. And while evidence had emerged that they are working on enriched uranium, specifically 60% enriched uranium, which is extremely high considering for civilian usage, because civilian usage usually requires around 3 to 5% of enrichment for use at nuclear plants. So that indeed was alarming, but there was no trace of nuclear weapons development found by the International Atomic Energy Agency. Nevertheless, the US's argument was understandable in a sense, because you do not want to have another nuclear proliferator, especially after the US failed to stop Pakistan, North Korea, already dangerous countries, from having nuclear weapons and committing proliferation. The case with Pakistan was even worse, because people like A.Q. Khan, they began to proliferate weapons across the Middle East to countries like Libya and Syria that would have raised serious questions for the stability of the region. Nevertheless, now, was attacking Iran the best bet in this scenario? And my answer to this is no, at least according to my analysis, because what I feel is that the moment you attack a country of the size of Iran, it becomes a problem, because you do not realize that Iran is not Venezuela, Iran is not Iraq, Iran is not Syria. It is a civilizational scale power. It is a big country. The terrain is so that you will have a hard time putting boots on the ground unless you commit at least 1 million soldiers for the battle, which is going to be extremely expensive and basically impossible for the US, because their current force strength is around 900,000 for the army itself. So they cannot possibly commit to a ground invasion. And then the fact that the US claims to change the regime, quote unquote, in Iran without putting boots on the ground raises some serious questions, because let's be real, you cannot have a civilizational scale power capitulate solely due to naval and airstrikes and firing missiles or drones. That is not how it works. You may cripple their conventional military capabilities. So what? How do you expect them to just give up fighting you after you aggressed the conflict against them? And especially when you see the videos coming out of Iran, the bombing, especially near Tehran, has been literally carpet bombing by the US and Israel. Now, I do not want to sound either pro-US or either pro-Iran or either pro-Israel. I am pro-India, but I am just talking about this conflict from a sense of a neutral observer, looking at what is exactly happening in the region and what implications it has for the overall region and the overall world itself. So if we see for the past few days, the prices of oil has risen, the prices of gold has increased, and stock markets are on a slight dip. And now the more serious problems will slowly start coming in the upcoming weeks, because Iran has declared the Hormuz Strait closed. So unless the US commits massive naval assets to escort ships out of the region for carrying the Gulf energy supplies, it is going to be a disaster for the global economy, because neither the US nor Canada nor Russia alone can complement for the supplies of oil and gas that was coming from the Gulf. That is going to be a serious problem for the United States. So it will end up in a situation so that they might have destroyed Iran's conventional capabilities. They might have even destroyed the nuclear and missile capabilities. But what you are essentially going to leave the conflict at is a stalemate. You cannot declare any sort of victory without completing your objectives, and the objectives stated by the US Defense Secretary, or War Secretary as they call him. That's a very stupid name, or I think kind of a suitable name now that the US has been just waging wars for no reason. But what I feel that is, if you claim victory by just bombing civilian areas or something, that is not, I don't think that it is a victory in any sort of sense, because Iran never matched the conventional capabilities of the US and Israel and its allies in the first place. That was virtually impossible. The only three powers that even come close to the US capabilities are Russia, China and India. So you cannot just claim victory by destroying things that they never even had in the first place. And yesterday, the US Virginia class attack submarine possibly sunk an Iranian frigate off the coast of Sri Lanka, which is a grave escalation of the conflict. But not entirely surprising, because a frigate being in international waters, and it was actually going back to Iran from the International Fleet Review in India. So that is not something illegal per se, because once two countries are at a war, their warships are part of the domestic territory of the country. So realistically, you can sink them near Iran's waters. But what is more alarming is that the president this has said that now all major powers will be paranoid about having submarines near them even during peacetime. Countries like China or India, they will now consistently run anti-submarine operations to see whether there's a hostile submarine near their territory. And India, China and Russia, specifically these three countries, and Japan and South Korea to a certain extent, they all have certain anti-submarine warfare capabilities and certain seabed based sonar detection capabilities. So that is a dangerous precedent. And what are you going to tell about merchant ships? You sunk a vessel, even if it was a warship. I think that if you sunk a vessel near the Sri Lankan coast, specifically near Colombo, which is a big transshipment port, you are going to scare off merchant ships. Captains will refuse to take part in basic voyages because they will be afraid that a submarine would come out of nowhere and just sink them. And while the US may not target civilian submarines, that is entirely a paranoia that could happen in the first place. And then I would like to talk about what exactly is going to be the fate of Iran. Now, to be honest, the possibility of ground invasion by the US or Israel or its allies, it is very grim, because to invade Iran, you have to either go through Iraq, or you have to go through Turkey, or you have to go through Armenia, Azerbaijan, or say Turkmenistan, or you have to go through Pakistan. So the northern side of countries, that is the Caucasus Mountains countries, the Armenia or Turkey or Turkmenistan, they're obviously not going to allow their territory to be used, and you cannot possibly put 1 million troops to that area. So that only leaves three possibilities for the conflict to take place, and that is through either the Iraqi border, which is again going to be a difficulty because Shia Islamists reside in Iraq. How can you expect them to just let them go to Iran, go inside Iran through an invasion, and you expect them to be silent? And then talking about Pakistan, Pakistan is instable in itself. It is currently facing a large amount of protests, and even the US embassy in Karachi was burned. So even if the government there allows, and I think that they would allow, considering the fact that their army chief has been bootlicking the US president for the past few months, the people of Pakistan would not accept that. And you have to understand this, that while the countries in themselves while the governments in themselves may agree that the US, while the Pakistani government may agree that the US may use the Balochistan border to get inside Iran, the people would not agree. How will you let the people come inside for 1 million troops to stage inside Pakistan as well? You need to get them through a shore, and the moment you enter through Karachi, or you enter through Gwadar, or you enter through Port Qasim, people are going to be pelting stones at you, even though you are probably going to be in armored vehicles. But that is going to be a serious problem. And then the fact that Pakistan is facing so many amounts of insurgencies, our current war with Afghanistan, as of recording the video, the war is still continuing. I don't know if they have done a ceasefire or not. They're fighting since the past 15 days, so I have no clue about that. So the only possible realm of invasion remains to be the ground assault, the marine assault. And invading Iran through a marine assault is not easy or impossible in a sense, because the moment you start sending large amounts of marines and army troops through the open seas, Iranian anti-ship missiles will just rain the area, and how many are you going to intercept? That is going to face a lot of losses. So I don't think that the US has realistically now obviously I was not in the White House wargaming room. They could have probably thought of some different tactics to gain control of the regime in Iran, but right now the approach of a ground assault, which was not ruled out by Donald Trump or his war secretary, whatever his name is, like he looks like a clown, not gonna lie, but whatever the plan was, or whatever it implies that the ground assault is still not off the table, that is just an extremely irrational response, and I do not think either the domestic parties in the US would agree for a full-scale war with Iran, because the moment again you commit most of your army to Iran, you immediately leave an open room to Russia to go inside Europe, or you leave an immediate open room to China to go inside Taiwan. And that is going to be the most dangerous thing in the whole scenario. And if you decide to use proxies, like how the US did in the Soviet-Afghan war, they propped up the Al-Qaeda and they propped up other non-state terrorist outfits. They are going to face the same problems as 9/11. And I do not want to sound like I'm promoting terrorism. As an Indian, we have faced so much of terrorism that we absolutely condemn it. We absolutely hate terrorism. But just looking at a logical perspective, you have bombed the country of people who did not have anything to do with you. Let's be real, the average Iranian person probably didn't even care whether Iran was making nuclear weapons, whether the US hated Iran, or whether Israel and Iran hated each other. All they wanted was just to build a house of their own, have a peaceful life, raise their families and earn a good living, live without the fear of sanctions. So the moment you begin to destroy Iran, or you begin to launch a ground assault either through conventional forces or raising irregular terrorist forces, or raising whatever they call proxy forces, do you think that the people of Iran would be happy about it? And the fact that they thought that the protesters would take out the regime, no. After the assassination of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, that was the worst decision in history, because the moment you killed him, you gave a precedent that, okay, before him, we were pretty poor. We were having problems with the fall of the Iranian currency. We were having problems with sanctions. But now that you have killed him and you are continuing bombing, now the average Iranian will think that what they have a problem is with the US and Israel. They are going to think that the whole reason that all of this has happened is because of the US, and that will generate feelings of hatred and eventually situations like the ISIS in Iraq and Syria. And that is going to be the most dangerous thing of the entire scenario. And this is entirely plausible, although I do not endorse any such things, but neither do I endorse the bombings of Iran, neither do I endorse the nuclear program of Iran, because both were inherently dangerous for this world. And now the conflict risks to widen the scenario, especially after the Iranian warship was sunk near Sri Lanka. That is going to be a dangerous precedent, because now you can expect large blue water navies like India, China, Russia to begin large-scale anti-submarine warfare patrols, because they do not want hostile submarines near their shores. So that is entirely what I feel is going to be the problem long term. So that is all I had to say for this video. And if you all have anything to say, if you all have differing opinions, so please do let me know down in the comments, and I shall see you all in the next video. So if you are in the Middle East, please take care of yourself. If you're in Iran, again, please take care of yourselves. And if you're in Israel, again, take care of yourselves, follow your respective government advisories, and stay safe, stay in the shelters, and keep your family safe. That's all I would say. So thank you all so much for watching, and I shall see you all in the next video. Take care and Jai Hind.